YouTube.
How did YouTube go from a failed dating site on the edge of bankruptcy to the second most viewed website in the world, with hundreds of billions of dollars? YouTube's rise is a wild underdog success story, but this video is also a journey through the different eras of YouTube. From the rise of the creator economy, to the adpocalypse, to all kinds of scandals and drama. And trust me, this story gets crazy. Welcome to the insane history of YouTube. The story of YouTube begins in a surprising place: the headquarters of PayPal. It's 1999, and three early PayPal employees are Steve Chen, Chad Hurley, and Javid Karim. These three guys found they made a great team together, but they also had something else in common too. Often, the three of them would meet for lunch at a coffee shop outside of PayPal's headquarters and talk about all the interesting ways the internet was evolving, and all the different business ideas this gave them. Their dream was to start their own internet company and get rich. However, their dreams quickly fell apart. In 2002, PayPal was acquired by eBay, its CEO was replaced, and the company focus changed. The new workload became unbearable and boring. So Chad left PayPal to become a design consultant, Javid went back to finish his degree, and Steve eventually left for Facebook. But the trio kept in touch. And by 2005, they were paying close attention to a popular website called Hot or Not, which allowed anyone to upload a photo of themselves for other people to rate. The guys wondered, what if instead of pictures, they built a site where users could upload videos of themselves? People could get rated and also reach out to each other to connect. And they even had a name for it: YouTube. U because users were showing themselves off, and tube in reference to old analog TV sets. And thus, YouTube's first slogan was "Tune in, hook up." So YouTube was intended to be a video dating site. Coincidentally, they registered the domain for YouTube on Valentine's Day 2005. After months of tireless work, on April 23rd, 2005, YouTube entered a public beta, and Javid uploaded the first ever YouTube video, which was just him at the zoo.
Alright, so here we are in front of the elephants. Cool thing about these guys is that they have really long trunks, and that's cool.
At the top of the site, you could enter if you were searching for videos of men or women, and at what age range. However, the problem was, YouTube's dating scene was a ghost town. At one point, the founders tried to pay women on Craigslist $20 to upload videos of themselves. But still, nobody was using it, and the founders felt like months of work had gone to waste. At that moment, it was hard to imagine they were about to change the internet forever. YouTube's dating angle wasn't working, but the guys had accidentally created something entirely different. Every day, new videos were uploaded to YouTube, but instead of dating profiles, they were snowboarding fails, cat videos, backflips, and all kinds of other homemade clips. People were using YouTube to store videos they had lying around on their SD cards or computers. And so, a month after launch, around 30,000 people were visiting the site every day. This hadn't been their plan, but the founders figured they should run with it. Basically turn YouTube into a database for people to store their videos.
When YouTube was a dating site, we received 0 video uploads for a week, right? And then let's just make it into a generic video site where you can upload anything. And that's when we really started seeing the videos.
Steve, Chad, and Javid worked tirelessly to upgrade YouTube with new features like a 5-star rating system, a top videos page, and the ability to embed videos onto other websites. However, a video sharing website was not exactly an original idea. The first one launched in 1997, and many others tried breaking into the market ever since. But the technological barriers these websites faced were simply too high. For starters, hosting and sending large video files was really expensive, so websites either limited people's uploads and downloads, or they made them pay for extra bandwidth. And even then, every camera recorded dozens of unique video formats, and different websites and devices only supported certain ones. Not to mention that internet speeds back then meant even small videos would take ages to download. So even though online video sharing was clearly a good idea, none of the early companies succeeded. But YouTube had one key advantage over everyone else: timing. When building the first version of YouTube, the founders made a smart decision to use a free browser plugin called Flash Player. Flash converted any kind of video to a single format, and when coupled with their simple and effective user interface, this made YouTube way more accessible than other sites. Flash also compressed files and came with a video playback system that streamed the video in small chunks. This meant that on YouTube, videos loaded fast, completely for free, and you didn't need to download them. To share videos, you just sent a link, and this changed everything. What's interesting though, is at this point the founders still saw YouTube just as a way for people to store videos that were relevant to them, and share them with friends and family. But then something curious started happening. Someone would upload a video with a universally funny quality, and it was only a matter of time until someone else found the video and shared it with their friends. At this point in 2005, MySpace was the biggest social network site. And so if someone found a funny video on YouTube, they'd post it on MySpace, and it'd get reshared over and over. With the combined power of MySpace and YouTube, early viral videos like David After Dentist, The Evolution of Dance, and Charlie Bit My Finger spread across the internet like wildfire, getting millions of views. And for YouTube, viral videos meant more visitors, which meant more uploads, which then led to even more viral videos. It was a snowball effect. However, whilst this situation looked great from the outside, inside the company, they were in a state of panic. Any website that hosts videos needs somewhere to store them, but until now, this hadn't been a problem for YouTube. When starting out, Steve hired a data hosting company called Server Beach, who were offering unlimited bandwidth for $129 a month. This was a good bargain initially, but when the number of videos uploaded to YouTube suddenly skyrocketed, Server Beach quickly realized their unlimited plan was not gonna work. So they said YouTube would have to start paying them proportionally for the amount of bandwidth they used. And the YouTube guys had no choice but to accept. This was a major issue, as suddenly Server Beach started charging thousands of dollars to Steve's credit card every month. And the even bigger problem was YouTube still wasn't a functioning business. They didn't even have a plan for how they were going to make money. So all of the initial excitement of seeing their user number grow was replaced by a panic. Every one of those users was costing them money. Around June 2005, Steve, Chad and Javid felt like the walls were closing in, and they quickly started looking for investors. Unfortunately though, it seemed like nobody wanted to invest. People thought YouTube's concept was great, but most investors didn't see it as a viable business. They felt even if YouTube could be monetized, the returns would be mediocre at best, as video hosting was just too expensive. And so after months of unsuccessfully pitching investors, things were looking bleak for the three founders. Every day, close to 1 million people were now visiting YouTube, but every month, Server Beach was charging Steve many thousands of dollars to host YouTube's videos. This was unsustainable. If they didn't find an investor soon, Steve would probably go bankrupt, and that would be the end of YouTube. However, one day, Javid was at a barbecue with one of his old co-workers from PayPal. He'd just got married and said he couldn't find a way to share the honeymoon videos with his friends and family. Obviously, Javid jumped at this opportunity and helped him upload his videos to YouTube. But that guy just happened to now be working for Sequoia Capital, one of Silicon Valley's biggest venture capital firms. And he was so impressed with YouTube that he connected the YouTube guys with his partners at Sequoia, who agreed to invest. And thus in November 2005, YouTube got the influx of cash they so desperately needed, $3.5 million. The founders breathed a sigh of relief, and they used this money to hire more employees, and then cram them into a tiny office above a pizza restaurant. Sure, it wasn't perfect. In fact, their new office was literally infested with rats. But the main thing was that YouTube seemed like it had a future. Unfortunately, this optimism didn't last long, because just a few weeks later, YouTube's single biggest traffic source declared war on them. For most users, YouTube was a way to store videos for personal use or to embed them on their websites. But a handful of people were taking a different approach. They were actually making videos for YouTube, consistently. This was new, and it was interesting. So to help these people out, Steve, Chad, and Javid updated YouTube with a new feature, the subscribe button. It seems simple, but this button would actually save the company in a few months and end up changing millions of lives. For now though, the subscribe button had one immediate effect. More people started uploading on a regular basis. By November 2005, more than 2 million people were visiting the site every day. By mid-December, that was closer to 8 million. YouTube's growth numbers were doubling every week, and it hadn't even left beta. YouTube launched officially on December 15th, 2005. But whilst they were busy celebrating, others were conspiring against it. You see, YouTube's viral hits were largely because of MySpace, but MySpace wasn't exactly happy about this. Every time someone clicked a YouTube link, they spent less time on MySpace. So MySpace had no mercy. They started removing posts with YouTube links, censoring any mention of it, and they even started their own video sharing project called MySpace Videos. So the week after YouTube's official launch, their main source of traffic was gone. The biggest social network was now their competitor, and they weren't the only ones. Google, Yahoo, and Facebook all wanted the video sharing market for themselves. But even though YouTube had far less resources, it did have something the rest of these companies could only dream of. 2 months after introducing the subscribe button, YouTube was no longer a simple video repository. Thousands of people were now uploading videos to YouTube for YouTube's sake, and millions of people were watching them every day. It didn't matter if you were a musician, a filmmaker, friends making comedy skits, or whatever else it was you wanted to share with the world. Now anyone, anywhere could build a community with people who shared their interests. And so when MySpace shadow banned YouTube, it didn't actually matter. By January 2006, YouTube's daily viewership had more than tripled to 25 million. By March, there were 25 million total videos, and every day, about 20,000 more were uploaded. And with such staggering growth, YouTube became the breeding ground for a new kind of celebrity. Someone who was accessible, relatable, and human. A YouTuber. Early popular YouTubers emerged, like Smosh, Brookers, iJustine, Fred, and Lonely Girl 15. What's interesting is back then, there was a team at YouTube dubbed the Cool Hunters, who would manually find interesting videos to put on the YouTube homepage, rather than using algorithms. However, it would soon become hard for the YouTube team to manage the huge influx of videos they were getting. Initially, moderation was all done by a small team who would manually watch every reported video, and they were exposed to all kinds of horrific uploads. In fact, many of the team started having nightmares. And as the uploads just kept coming faster and faster, YouTube would soon have an even bigger problem. Since anyone could upload pretty much anything for free, people were using YouTube to upload copyrighted music, movies, and TV shows. And this pirated content was getting lots of views. Newsweek called YouTube the video version of Napster and questioned if it would get sued into oblivion. Even a random video with a song as background music counts as copyright infringement, so all three major record labels filed a barrage of lawsuits against YouTube. Not just that, but videos of an SNL skit were uploaded to YouTube and watched millions of times. So Viacom, one of the biggest media companies in the world, threatened YouTube with another massive lawsuit if they didn't somehow remove all of them. YouTube simply did not have the tools to deal with all of this. And to make things even worse, each day around 65,000 new videos were now added on top of the 25 million YouTube was already hosting. And they still hadn't figured out a good way to make money. They had started running a small amount of banner adverts, or occasional ads on very select channels, but at this point they didn't have a good ad system, and they didn't know if either advertisers or viewers would accept ads on these short, homemade videos. Not to mention that they were concerned about running ads on content when they had no idea if the material was copyrighted or not, as that could invite even more lawsuits. So basically, YouTube was in a very strange position. On the one hand, it was one of the fastest growing websites in internet history. On the other hand, they had no meaningful revenue, were a magnet for piracy, and were getting sued by the biggest media companies on the planet. In its current state in the summer of 2006, it seemed like YouTube simply couldn't succeed. And so many prominent business people thought YouTube was practically worthless. But then, to everyone's shock, the YouTube founders uploaded a video to YouTube's official channel to say they'd been acquired.
Hi YouTube, this is Chad and Steve. We're the co-founders of the site, and we just want to say thank you. Today we have some exciting news for you. We've been acquired by Google. Two kings have gotten together. The king of search, the king of video have gotten together.
Just 18 months after its launch, Google bought YouTube for $1.65 billion. But why had Google suddenly decided to buy YouTube? Well, Google had attempted their own service called Google Video, but it only had around 10% market share, whereas YouTube had over half of the video market. Google figured if you can't beat them, buy them. However, Google buying YouTube actually meant more copyright holders piled on even harder. Viacom announced they were suing YouTube for $1 billion. So how on earth would Google turn this mess around? On this channel, I cover all kinds of entrepreneur stories. But have you ever thought about starting your own business? If so, today's sponsor Busy offers a free LLC formation service. You just pay the state fees and they'll get your business incorporated and handle all the paperwork. When I started my business, I remember it was quite overwhelming, but Busy makes the process so much simpler. For example, Busy can take care of the ongoing filing requirements with your state, which is a huge time saver. And Busy can even provide you with a professional address with digital mail scanning, giving you access to your mail from anywhere, anytime. Basically, Busy gives entrepreneurs the tools to start and manage their business, which means you can focus on making money. With over 20 years experience, they've already helped over 1 million entrepreneurs, and I've personally found them great to work with. So if you want to start your own company, I honestly think Busy makes it so much easier. Just use my link in the description to get started today. Even after Google acquired YouTube, Chad stayed on as CEO, and Steve stayed in charge of developing new features. So the original vision for YouTube stayed very much the same. The difference now was that YouTube had the resources of Google at their disposal. So Google began building a tool called Content ID. This allowed copyright holders to upload their content to a giant database, and YouTube would then be able to find identical matches on its site. This meant the copyright holder could then remove the content or make money from it. This was a massive breakthrough in dealing with YouTube's copyright problems. And so that just left one other big problem to solve: making money. Of course, Google's biggest strength has always been advertising. And so soon after Google acquired YouTube, advertisements began playing widely across the site. But this would lead to a truly historic announcement. You see, up until this point, most YouTubers were making videos purely for fun, to connect with people who shared their interests, and to share their lives with others. But what if they could do all of that and get paid for it? In 2007, YouTube rolled out the YouTube Partner Program, which paid YouTubers a share of the revenue from the ads running on their videos. The creator would get 55% and YouTube would take 45%. It sounds simple, but it was revolutionary at the time. People had just been happy YouTube let them host their videos for free, and now they could get paid for their hobby. This immediately incentivized people to create more videos and create even better videos. If you wanted to make a short film now, you didn't need permission from a producer. If you wanted to publish a song, you didn't need permission from a record label. Or if you wanted to give a lecture, you didn't need permission from a university board. All gatekeepers were removed, so whatever your idea was, anyone could now broadcast themselves to the world and make money from it. This began a golden age for creativity on the internet, with thousands of new creators joining YouTube. And this led to whole new formats of video content on the site. Pranks, comedy sketches, video essays, vlogs, tutorials, reviews, ASMR, animations, stunts, the list goes on. And because YouTube allowed for more niche content than TV, there was something for everyone. Meanwhile, YouTube was also making stars. In 2007, a proud mother uploaded a video of her son singing, who'd later be signed by a record executive after he found him on YouTube. Around this time, YouTube also began to see videos with more editing and higher production channels emerged. KSI, MKBHD, Ray William Johnson, Dude Perfect, Jenna Marbles, PewDiePie, the list was endless, and the viral videos just kept coming. However, whilst YouTube opening monetization to its creators had led to all kinds of new content, it had also caused a major problem. Since people had realized that views equal money, YouTube had become filled with clickbait. Creators would lie in the title of their videos just to get people to click, and thumbnails of girls with low-cut tops suddenly filled the site. This would lead YouTube to make a major change to its algorithm. Instead of prioritizing views, videos would now be promoted more if they had higher watch time. The idea was that if someone spent a long time watching a video, they're more likely to have enjoyed it than if they immediately clicked off it. This also meant people spent more time on YouTube and saw more ads. While some creators suffered from this change, it also gave rise to longer content, from reaction videos to documentaries to Let's Plays. This coincided with games like Minecraft exploding in popularity, and soon the gaming genre of YouTube became more popular than ever. By 2010, the world watched more than 2 billion YouTube videos every day. By this point, Steve had left YouTube to become an investor, and Chad, who was YouTube's CEO from day one, decided that it was time for him to move on as well. Since Javid had left too, this meant all three of the original YouTube founders had gone. And things at YouTube would soon take a dark turn. By 2014, YouTube surpassed 1 billion active users, and YouTube even invested $100 million to make original content. Creators continued to build strong connections with their audience, whether it was through daily vlogs like Casey Neistat and David Dobrik, video podcasts like Joe Rogan and Hot Ones, or kids reviewing toys. There were channels where you could get your news, education, gaming, and so much more. The creator economy was here, where becoming a YouTuber went from being seen as something kinda weird to the most desired job in the world. It was also in 2014 that Susan Wojcicki was brought in as CEO. Susan had one main objective: turn YouTube into a state-of-the-art advertising platform. And initially, this helped everyone. As YouTube became a better place to advertise, more companies saw its potential to reach their ideal customers, which meant both YouTube and its creators made more money. YouTube reinvested that into becoming an even better ad platform, and creators reinvested into making even better videos. This drew in even more advertisers, and the cycle repeated. Because of this, YouTube ads brought in $6.7 billion in 2016. So YouTube was becoming seriously profitable for Google. But beneath the surface, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. Mainstream companies like Apple, Nike, and Coca-Cola are very picky about what they associate their brands with. But since anyone could upload pretty much anything to YouTube, bullying, violence, conspiracy theories, and extremism could spread unchecked. And advertisers soon began realizing their ads were being displayed right next to this kind of content. Starting in 2016, some major companies began pulling their ads from YouTube. This was bad. So YouTube's response was to make their advertiser-friendly content rules stricter. But this was a controversial decision. Many creators suddenly found their videos weren't earning money anymore, and if they wanted to fit within YouTube's new rules, they had to avoid certain topics completely, which they argued was the complete opposite of what YouTube stood for. But this was just the beginning. In February 2017, major companies like Verizon and AT&T complained that their ads had been placed on videos uploaded by Islamic extremists. This news story went viral, and suddenly thousands of major advertisers pulled their ads from YouTube. Journalists realized if you just searched for any vile videos, you'd be able to find YouTube ads playing in front of them, which made for a great news story. And as a result, pretty soon almost all of YouTube's largest advertisers were boycotting the site. With far less ad money circulating through YouTube, this meant creators' revenue dropped significantly, and this became dubbed YouTube's adpocalypse. YouTube was fundamentally an ad business, but advertisers had lost faith that YouTube could control where its ads would run. The problem was, by this point, around 400 hours of content was uploaded to YouTube every single minute. Combing through all of it manually to ensure it was safe for advertisers was impossible. So, YouTube conducted an algorithmic blanket sweep of the entire platform to identify inappropriate content. Millions of videos were demonetized, age restricted, taken down, and sometimes even entire channels were deleted or removed from the YouTube Partner Program. And whilst this certainly helped recover some advertisers, YouTube made a crucial mistake. They didn't let creators know about any of these changes. And since the blanket sweep of YouTube's content was done by an algorithm, lots of videos that didn't break YouTube's policies got flagged, and thousands of creators' previous videos simply stopped generating revenue. Many innocent creators found their ad revenue basically disappeared, and some were forced to quit YouTube. Considering many of these creators relied on ad revenue to pay for their teams, their homes, and even to feed their families, this was a dark time for YouTube. So it was hard to believe next year was about to be much worse. PewDiePie, who was at the time YouTube's most subscribed creator, came under fire for uploading anti-Semitic content. While some would argue it was edgy jokes taken too far, it didn't help that a neo-Nazi website rebranded itself as the #1 PewDiePie fan site. As mainstream media ran the story, YouTube began to realize that negative press surrounding its biggest stars would impact them too. The clearest example of this was on December 31st, 2017, when millions of people watched a vlog by Logan Paul, where he and his friends found a dead body in Japan. Due to YouTube's algorithms, the video made it to YouTube's trending page, which basically meant YouTube was promoting the video. And even though Logan chose not to monetize it, this caused a massive backlash. not just because it was disrespectful, but the fact this type of content was being served to a fairly young, impressionable audience. And around this time, advertisers and parents' concerns about YouTube's safety for kids would be taken to a whole new level. You see, YouTube had created a YouTube for Kids app where its algorithms would filter videos to content aimed at children. But the problem was, some seriously disturbing videos using popular characters like Elsa and Spider-Man were getting hundreds of millions of views on YouTube Kids. Whether it was Elsa giving birth or being kidnapped, these viral clips were often violent and nightmarish. But the algorithms just saw kids' characters and pulled them into the YouTube Kids app that was supposed to be safe for children. When the news went viral about this, the scandal became known as Elsagate. And it led to yet another adpocalypse as advertisers abandoned YouTube again. And as if this wasn't bad enough, just a couple of years later, they would be facing an even more disturbing scandal. You see, children were uploading videos like them doing gymnastics or bikini hauls, where they would try on clothes. But child predators were found timestamping revealing frames in the comment section. It turns out there was an entire network of predators on these kids' videos sharing links and timestamps. When this was finally discovered, YouTube went into crisis mode and ended up shutting down all comments on all kids' videos. This would have unintended consequences, where many legitimate kids channels suffered badly as a result. And it wasn't only kids channels who were unhappy with YouTube. Around this time, many political creators claimed that YouTube was actively censoring them, and many felt certain opinions were now actively repressed on YouTube. Meanwhile, YouTube had become flooded with clips from late night shows and traditional news networks, and some started to feel YouTube was losing its soul of what YouTube had once been. Not to mention many creators still dealing with demonetization or copyright issues. So basically, for a whole host of different reasons, the sentiment towards YouTube from its community had been growing increasingly negative. And in 2018, they would make that known. As YouTube grew, the quality of content increased further, and this was partly thanks to services like Storyblocks, which gives creators access to everything they need all in one place. Video clips, templates, music, sound effects, images, and more. In fact, I've used Storyblocks for years to help make my videos. And they've been supporters of this channel, like sponsoring this video. So if you're creating content yourself, instead of paying individually for stock footage and music, with Storyblocks, you can just get unlimited downloads for one set price, and streamline your workflow to save valuable time each week. And everything you download is royalty free, so you can still monetize your video. Plus, you get 2 extra months free when you sign up for an annual plan. So go to storyblocks.com/magnates to take advantage of this limited time offer. Every year, YouTube released a rewind video, basically looking back over the past year. And to someone not familiar with the platform, YouTube Rewind 2018 would have seemed like any other. But instead, the video became the most disliked video in YouTube history. There were many reasons for this. Firstly, the video emphasized old media stars like Will Smith, John Oliver, and Trevor Noah, seemingly focusing more on celebrities than native YouTubers. It also featured many creators who didn't produce videos in English, meaning many viewers had no idea who half the people in the video even were. The video also glossed over big moments from the year, like beauty guru feuds or the breakout of YouTube boxing, and instead it felt more ad-friendly and corporate. And so the YouTube community picked this moment to unleash their dissatisfaction with YouTube overall. The truth was that whilst YouTube Rewind had started as a fun tradition, YouTube had simply grown too big now. YouTube was so diverse with so many different channels that it'd be impossible to encapsulate everyone's favorite creators and keep everyone happy. However, the reality is that throughout YouTube's entire history, it's faced one big ongoing struggle. Inside YouTube, they have always described the platform as an ecosystem with three main parties: viewers, creators, and advertisers. They compare it to a stool. You have to keep all three legs equal and sturdy. But in reality, keeping all three groups happy is never easy. For example, if you only show ads on family-friendly videos, advertisers are happy, but creators are not happy. If you remove dislikes, advertisers and some creators are happy, but viewers aren't happy. Making choices that keep everyone happy is surprisingly difficult, and yet YouTube needs all three groups to survive. So you may think with all these problems, YouTube would have struggled. But weirdly, in the last few years, it's been the total opposite. If you want to grow your own successful YouTube channel, I've spent years learning everything so you don't have to. If you'd like to skip all the years of mistakes and just see exactly what actually works, check out the link in the description to get help directly from me. I'll see you there. In 2019, PewDiePie became the first creator to hit 100 million subscribers after an ongoing battle with T-Series. But as for YouTube, by 2020, their own competitor had emerged. TikTok became the fastest app ever to reach 1 billion users, and YouTube saw it as a genuine threat. So in 2021, YouTube rolled out Shorts, their own version of TikTok. And it's fair to say it worked, with Shorts views reportedly now surpassing TikTok. YouTube also then identified Twitch as a threat, and started paying streamers to come over to YouTube Live. Meanwhile, YouTube was growing rapidly on TVs, surpassing the big streamers like Netflix. Somehow, YouTube was competing on all fronts and winning. With over 2.5 billion active users, YouTube is the second most frequented site in the world. However, in recent years, what being a YouTube creator actually means has evolved again. Instead of someone in their room talking to a camera, YouTube creators are now making truly insane productions. The most obvious example is the world's new biggest YouTuber, MrBeast, with multi-million-dollar videos like recreating Squid Game in real life. And there's been a clear shift of many creators essentially becoming production companies, with bigger teams and bigger budgets, and even building separate brands that can become billion-dollar companies. This has made some people feel nostalgic for the old days of YouTube, when things seemed simpler and more personal. But the reality is, you can still post more personalized, lower effort videos. And so I think on the whole, it's a good thing that as a viewer, you now have access to higher quality content. And as a creator, it's a good thing that you can build huge businesses through YouTube. For me personally as a creator, YouTube has completely changed my life. The fact I can make money creating videos about whatever I want is crazy, and it's easy to forget YouTube pioneered that before other platforms. They've made being a creator a legitimate career path and paid out billions to creators. And look, YouTube has had plenty of fair criticism against it. But you could take away other content platforms, and I don't think it'd have much of a negative impact on me. But I think losing YouTube would be really sad. Many of us use it for everything from news to entertainment to music to instructions to relaxation to education and so much more. I'm not saying it's perfect, but if you're here right now, YouTube has probably given you a lot of joy over the years. And the data suggests it's still got many great years to come. So it's really kinda crazy to think back to where it all started. However, if hearing about YouTube's history has made you want to grow your own YouTube channel, I've made a video explaining how YouTube is basically an online game. And this is the strategy of how to win and become a YouTube millionaire. I think you'll really like this one, so click the thumbnail on screen and I'll see you there. Cheers.